Just an update on the latest release. Some of the new features that you may not be familiar with if you've upgraded from one of the public betas versions. First of all, the frames are basically the same. You'll notice that we can now drop down filters for individual tables. So I can set this to say 500 miles or default it back to 100 miles. And similarly on here I can set that back to 500 miles for the en route controllers. That can all be set up in a config table, which is here. You can put your weather key in, which you need from check WX, your VATSIM and SimBrief IDs for importing data. You can also set various parameters. Important one is set outbound messages. The installer should set that to 1. That allows you to send messages. So moving across the top, the message now looks slightly different. You have shortcuts. So for instance, if I'm at Gatwick and I click in do you cover, it will send that to a controller, for instance, and there's lots of other pre-filled shortcuts on there as well. You obviously have to update the messaging DLL. Again, the installer should do that. Weather we'll show that in a second. That'll update with the route import and flight plans now. If I refresh my plan, you can see that I've got Heathrow to Amsterdam. If I click on that, first of all, this table is filtered, so even though Amsterdam is outside of my range of 100 miles, it will show up on here. And obviously, if we look at these, you can now see that I have got the information on the. You have to click on the left-hand side to bring these up. I can obviously do all the normal stuff. There's pinned messages that some of you may be familiar with, so I can pin that station and have all its information in there for when I need it. We'll delete those for the moment. Moving across the top, you saw the config, the flight plans, and we'll come back to that on the map. We can restart the server, obviously. Not a lot changed on the en route table, but on the airports table you can now click and get a full detail with ATIS on a single click with the frequencies, and you've obviously got a fast click here for either of these two. You can change your radios here. They're shown at the bottom with the frequency lookups. You notice when I loaded in the flights are now available down here. These are obviously pre-filling, so if I go up to the filter I can now bring up EGLL and you can see the data. There's another way to get to airport information. As I said, on here I can pin all the stations. You can see that there. We'll go back. I can see all the airports. I can get the weather, but obviously I've got ATIS. And also if I click on there now, I get the new what we call the VFR view, and that will show me the airport, all the aircraft departing and arriving. So there's an outbound. You click on there, you will get the airport, the aircraft information, and you can see all where it's going, the pilot details, etc. And also, if you obviously, that's an inbound. If I click on Amsterdam itself, I get the airport information, same as the other table, and there's clickable. So you can do most of what you can do on the tables now in the map. If we zoom out, if we've got any controllers online, I don't think there are any within range, we can click. But you also notice that it's got the routing from SimBrief put in with my waypoints, my top of descent. It doesn't take account the SIDS and stars, but it definitely shows the routing as it would be. It's just useful to see when you're coming up to an FIR boundary and give you sort of situational awareness. So now we're on the maps. Have a quick look at what's on here. You could see before that it would show aircraft around me. If I click on there, when it's green, these are just general aircraft, so it's basically showing me stuff with and without flight plans. But if I wanted to go to a specific airport, at the moment it's obviously got Heathrow. If I click on there, you'll see I can bring up Heathrow traffic, and that will show me traffic both on the ground and in the air. In a similar fashion, I can go down to the search. I can pick up, let's say we want to put in Echo Golf Kilo Kilo. I can select and I can show on the map, and when I show that, that will also bring up the inbound and outbound flights, as you can see. Bit of a delay sometimes on bringing those up. There's a cycle. We cut down on some of the updates purely on the basis of keeping the performance down, so it doesn't impact or stutter the simulator. There's somebody outbound to Frankfurt at the moment from Gatwick being updated real time. So intend to keep the aircraft in range. You can turn aircraft on and off here. You can set yourself around the aircraft here, or you can set the map back to where you are. Not a lot else happening on the map front. The normal, you can put your messages on the bottom and top, and obviously we have the real-time controller updates on here. So we saw that's actually got a controller come up in Langen and also in Ireland. So if we click on there, we can get that. That's Shannon by the looks of things. Click on there and we get the details. There isn't much info coming through at the moment. It's only been online for a couple of minutes, so it takes a time for VATSIM to catch up. Obviously from here we can pin that, we can message, we can tune our radio, or we can message. So we can direct message outbound by clicking on the controller. We can also direct message outbound by clicking here in the call sign as well. There's across the bottom here, as I said before, you've got the aircraft. You also notice that there's a search. So if I want, I can also find pilots, get weather for airports. So if I wanted to find all the pilots called John, I'm obviously will do this to find someone I know, so I can message them, find flight or pilot, and there are the people called John at the moment. I can click on there and then choose to message them. So people have found that useful when jointly flying with people or arranging to fly into somewhere on an event. So moving across, as I say, you can pre-populate here with these details from your flight plan. These are obviously updated real time when you click and they flick. Slight delay again from a performance perspective, so we're not overloading the server with requests. Across the bottom here we can toggle system messages, so that should be turned off by default now. You can show your pin stations on and off. You can toggle your messages as to whether you see ATIS updates or not. Now, this is also available when you're in map mode, which also allows you to toggle the map on and off. Refresh, update, you can do a quick update on your data. That is quite important. When you're about to move into an area, you might want to do a quick refresh. There's a couple of seconds, well, it's about 60-second delays in getting the data from VATSIM, and VATSIM updates every 15 seconds. So, and you'll notice this is now filtered down the number of aircraft around me intentionally from a performance perspective. Here you can delete any messages, as you can see. Here you can tune your radio directly to to Unicom. You can get the weather around you. So we're at Gatwick at the moment, so we'll get a Gatwick report. You can send messages from down the bottom if you needed to send messages with all your various shortcuts, and you would obviously type in the controller. This is important. You can decide what default radio is, so you can decide that you want everything to go to COM1 standby, and then when you click on Unicom or any controller, it puts it on COM1 standby, not on active. People quite like that, and then they can flick it over. In terms of the map itself, there are some visibility things that go on. You can probably see here, so we don't clutter the map with lots of labels until you're closer in. A bit strange the way the library for that works. Doesn't always work, but as you can see, it does keep things a bit tidier. And like I said, you can decide whether you use IFR or sort of VFR type maps, and that is configurable in the config. You can see you can decide V or I which way you want to start the system. So the config is pretty straightforward, probably no need to really change it. That's about it on this update. I think it should all work with the new installer. It probably makes it straightforward. The main thing is like outbound messaging. You might want to send a test. It's also worth looking at vPilot front end for a while. You can actually see the messages do get created as separate windows. So you still have that running as well, just to give you assurance that the message has been sent.